Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and welcome back to the Rebel Reject Create podcast. And today, my guest is Claudia Thompson, who is a leadership coach and author, and we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of how she helps solve other people's problems. So, welcome to the show, Claudia.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Would you describe what you do as problem solving?
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Well, then we would get into the whole topic of people or problems. And that I'm not too sure about. So I never would go on board with calling your team or your staff problems. But
Right.
I do realize that some people have problems communicating with their staff or with their team or just having difficulties getting them motivated. So yes, I guess you could say I am a problem solver.
Now, I love your response because you are creatively reframing here, right? And that must be something you do an awful lot of.
It's like the whole when you invited me on the podcast and you told me it would be about creativity. I always thought, oh, I'm not a creative person because for me, like the initial thought was always like, well, if you're creative, then you're a painter or you're a musician or something like that. So that for me was always the creative aspect. That was what it meant to be creative. But then I discussed it with a friend of mine, and they were like, "Yeah, but you wrote a book, and that's
Hello.
creative." And I was like, "How's that creative?" And like, "Well, you created something." And I was like, "Ah."
Yeah,
So it's a really, really interesting topic to take the whole, well, what is creativity in the first place?
right.
Like take it apart.
Yeah. Which nobody agrees on, by the way. There's no agreed definition of what it is. But I think as a coach, people are coming to you because things on some category of thing isn't working, and they have a particular story about it, don't they?
Yeah, no, and absolutely. And a lot of my work and I guess creativity in general is that you look at things a different way.
Mm,
And kids are really, really good at that. You know, you give them a paper clip or something, and they can come up with the most amazing stories of what that paper clip is and how it can be a spaceship and it can take you to the moon, or it's, I don't know, a tool to do surgery if you have a surgically inclined child. Um, and so a lot of what I do is to just listen at what the leader or the boss thinks is the problem. And then we look at, well, what assumptions are you making that might not necessarily be true? Or what have you already tried? And could we just try this a different way? And if this is the goal, what are the different ways to get to that goal? Which is, I guess, what creativity is at its core as well.
right. Well, one of the key fundaments of creativity I'm beginning to totally understand better now than ever is that you need to let go of your assumptions, of the story you're telling, of the way you're looking at stuff. Because it's only once you do that that it's even possible to then attach to some other version or other details. So, how do you do that? How do you get people to let go so that your coaching can take hold?
Well, the good thing, or I guess the bit that makes that easy for me is by the time they have come to realize that they need help and need to reach out to someone like me, is that they've already come to the point where they've seen, oh, maybe what I've been doing so far is not working. So they're a lot more open to
Right,
someone else's opinion. But even having said that, there are a lot of people that still think my way is the right way and the only way to do this. And actually, I just hired you to be able to say, oh, I hired coaches to help as well. So I guess the first thing is to yeah, just show them, look, when you do this, this happens, and this is the result you no longer want. So if this is the result you no longer want, we need to go back to the steps that we're currently doing that produce that result.
right.
So yeah, it's just showing them what is or isn't working.
When you explain it like that, it sounds like there's a process, right? It's like you're assembling a car on an assembly line. There's a process. You've got A, B, C, D, and then that results in X
Yeah.
product at the end.
Yeah. And that's I don't know if that is my German brain, but that's how I've always been thinking and what caused me problems in jobs when I was still employed. It's this, yeah, but if this is what we want to achieve, then we need to do this first, then this, then this, then this, then this. So I always saw the end goal there, and I almost magically could see the path in front of me, I guess.
And you didn't think you were creative, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there you go. I mean, that's maverick thinking, right? You're put into a situation, you diagnose the process, the way things are going, and then you relate that to the supposed end goal. You go, computer says no.
Yeah.
So you fix it. You come up with a different way of doing it.
Yeah. No,
Interesting.
absolutely.
If you took 3 steps backwards and looked at yourself doing that, could you figure out what you're actually doing? Because you said it's quite instinctive, but do you think you could tear it apart?
Do you mean for myself or when I
Yeah,
work with?
for yourself.
I've always been probably lots or sometimes to the detriment of myself, been very, very self-reflective and I have probably at times overanalyzed, like, why am I doing this thing? Why do I keep ending up? And then we talked briefly about numerology before we started this, but I was always like, well, maybe I'm like this because this is my horoscope, and maybe
Right.
it's because I'm an only child, or maybe this or that and that and that. And then, you always go back to analyze. And so you can certainly overanalyze things
Yes.
as well. But yes, I think you can, I think every problem is figure outable.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they've all got moving parts, don't they? Which by definition implies that you can, I don't know, replace bits. You can figure it out. I like that. Figure outable. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so and then when it comes to you've got a business owner, they're coming to you because they're unhappy with the ultimate outcomes, either psychologically, internally, or potentially just on a business level. What is your general approach to because this is all about the trust to let go, to share.
Mhm. Yeah.
How does one go about setting that up?
So for me, the way I approach it is always I look at the boss first. So even the framework that I use is called the boss method. So for me, it comes back to the person at the top. And we all start, or most of us, we start a business because we have a crazy idea, or we have a passion, or we see a gap in the market. We start that business, and then if it suddenly goes well and people start joining the ride, and suddenly you're no longer just doing the thing or no longer just following your passion and doing the things you like that light you up, but you also have a team that suddenly look at you like for direction and like, what we
Right.
doing? What we doing? So I first start with the boss. So we look at why did you start the business? What was the idea? And are we still on track to that idea? Are you still doing enough of what lights you up? And also, what is it that lights you up? And then we go from there and we look at, okay, which of the things that you currently do on your to-do list actually really, really drain your energy and leave you tired at the end of the day and with all the firefighting. And then, you're really focused on something and then someone knocks on the door and asks, "So do you just have a second?" Like
Oh,
taking you out of your focus and so on. So we take a really, really detailed close-up of what's currently going on and how far is that from where we want to go. Um, but for that, you actually need to go, where is it that you want to go? And a lot of people
right.
don't know that. I mean, this is a saying, isn't it? It's like most people don't get what they want because they don't know what they want. And yeah, so that is a big part to just look at, well, what's the goal? Where are we headed? Is the
Right.
business going to be, is it a national business? Is it international? Is it just regional? Are you just the best in the region? How many people, how many offices, what's the profit goals, and so on. So we just look at that, and then we look at all the little things in the machine that we need to adjust to make that happen.
Wow. So I mean, I've noticed this, I guess, myself, but it's interesting to hear you say it in the way that you just did. So, if I can rephrase that, it kind of sounds like people are now so basically bogged down in how they must do what they must do, that they're no longer sure why they're doing it or where it's even what it's even for.
Yeah. Yeah, it's this classic firefighting, isn't it? It's like
Right.
you just deal with whatever lands on your desk. And then you don't even consider that, oh, actually, I'm the boss. I don't have to do all of this. I could
Mm,
delegate this. Or is
right.
this because so often when you come to small businesses, which are the companies that I work with, they have those what I like to call legacy tasks. So those things that some employee started 10 years ago, but they have long moved on and no longer in the business, but the task still remains, still survives in the company. Nobody knows why we still do it or why we do it that way. And so much of it is just looking at, okay, why is this still happening? And questioning every single task that happens. And especially with the rise of AI and lots of tools out there and freelancers that can help you everywhere. It's it's so easy to free up some of the work and
Right.
take off some of the stress that lands on your desk every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. You reminded me, I always used to ask people two questions. What do you want? And how much do you want that thing? And you're right, actually, it's quite staggering how difficult people find it to answer the what do I want part
Mm.
because of cultural programming, not wanting to seem too big-headed or I don't deserve this. So it's quite a leap of imagination
Yeah.
to go from, okay, I have a business, I'm doing this, but what is it supposed to look like? What do I actually want?
Mm.
Um, is it imagination? How do you get people to then dive into that?
It is, that's a really, really good point. And I find when I speak to business owners, some have an idea. So once you start probing and you're like, well, what does it look like? What's the color? How big is it? You know, and so on. They have a very, very clear idea of where they want the business to go. Others are more clear on, so it's always a bit of like playing around, finding out who you're talking to. And others are a lot more motivated by, well, what do you want your life to look like? Because, you know, if they're like, oh, actually, I'd like to retire in 2 years and I
Mm,
would just love to be on the beach every day, then that obviously the business needs to be set up a different way, needs to be prepared for being sold on or whatever the person want to do with the business to someone that says, "Oh, I want to be the biggest international business the world has ever seen." But having said that, there are still people that don't really know what they want their life to look like or the business to look like. And with those, you just start the other way around. You're like, okay, well, what of what's going on in your life right now do you not want to do anymore? And if they're
yeah,
like, oh, actually, I miss dinner with my family every night, and I'd love to be able to be at home 5 o'clock, or I'd love to do the school run or whatever it is,
yeah,
then you can work there. So it's always like, you know, it's with the goals, it's always like either a going to or an away from goal.
right.
So yeah, and usually people want the away from a lot more than the going to, because that
Well,
is a visionary imagination thing that hasn't quite happened yet. And then come in
exactly.
all the objections you had about, oh, do I actually deserve this? Am I the right person to do this? And is this even a good idea as well?
Yeah. Reminds me of a very how powerful as a creative thinking technique a reverse brainstorm is. So people feel it's difficult under pressure to come up with good ideas, but it's really easy and everyone jumps on board to say what a bad idea is.
Yeah.
And so you do a creative brainstorm where you tell everybody, okay, so what should we not do to improve our customer service or to improve our product? Oh, we should definitely not do this, and our competition's doing this so badly, we should definitely not do that. And then you've got a whole list of things which, if you flip them 180 degrees, oh, look, we've got a whole bunch of good ideas. So
Yeah.
it's really cool to hear you doing that in a coaching perspective, because I think in principle it's the same idea.
Yeah, and that's the power of, so something you touched on there is like group creativity, because I love the thing. So, and I go when I go into a group workshop, so when a business owner asks me to do a workshop with their team, I usually go in with no ideas. I just go in there and then just let them run free, because so often when people are given the chance to be creative and they know there's not going to be any consequences, because especially in
Ah,
a work environment, you know, people, if especially if you employ them, they might not always be happy to tell you the truth because you decide if they still have a job tomorrow or not. So if I go into this workshop and, I just say, today everything goes, you can say whatever you want, there are no stupid ideas. And that gives them the permission to be creative. And
There
it's
we
just
go.
magical what can come up in moments like that.
But that's it, isn't it? We all need permission. And I think quite often it's as simple as that. People don't feel like they have permission, so they don't dare for 1 second.
It's crazy though, isn't it? Why at one point do we feel we need permission to be creative?
Yeah.
It's
I mean, according to that
weird.
NASA study from the 60s, 95% of 2-year-olds are creative geniuses, and they don't ask for permission, they just do. So
Yeah.
what happens to us?
That is a very, very good question. What happens? So I think our creativity as grown-up shifts. Um, I mean, not saying that all adults are still, what was it, 98% are still creative. But I think our creativity as grown up just shifts a little bit because I think in the study they just asked children to think of purposes for an item and just asked them to list as many purposes as they can think of. And as an adult, you don't really need that as much as like, here's a
Yeah.
cup. How many things can you think of to do with a mug
Yeah.
or a cup? But I think we just shift. So there's still, I know some amazing painters and
Yeah.
musicians, so like the pure creatives. But I think even as a manager, you have to think of creative ways to motivate your team, or if you look at things like social media and the people out there, they only have a mobile phone but they want to be famous, so they just
Yeah.
start doing like, how can I become famous with just a mobile phone as well? So I
Yeah.
think the creativity changes a little bit into different forms and we create different things, but I think we're still
Yeah.
creative.
I think you've actually framed that really nicely because it's not that we are no longer creative, it's that we are doing things which culturally we no longer call creative, and therefore we think we're not creative. Like
Mm,
I think a lot of people who work, have a job of any description, are fundamentally unaware that they solve problems every day. Like stuff happens and they need to resolve this so they can get on with their job. And problem solving requires an idea,
mm.
which is creative.
Yeah.
And but it's just so everyday and ordinary that we just kind of go, oh well, I'm not creative, and then actually
Mm.
you are.
Yeah, it is a funny one, isn't it? Because yeah, as when you asked me, I was like, well, creativity is painting and making music. But
Yeah.
if you look at someone, I don't know, like Airbnb, the company, he thought, well, wouldn't it be great if
Oh,
people would find a sofa if they go traveling? And you're like, that's a brilliant idea. So they created a business around it.
yeah.
And I think we just need to be more generous with our definition of
Yeah.
creativity.
Well, the neuroscientist David Eagleman says that any creative act is either one or a combination of three things. You're either bending an existing idea to a new use, or you're blending two existing ideas to create something appreciably different, or you're breaking an existing idea down into component pieces and reconfiguring them, or taking parts out to do something else with them. And if you operate off that assumption, you can look at so many everyday human tasks which are doing precisely that. I mean, your Airbnb example is it's a bend, it's a serious big bend. Well, maybe it's also a blend, actually, bit of both. But there
Yeah,
you have it. And
yeah.
the result is something that is maybe not original, maybe not unique, but it certainly is new and different to what was there before.
Mm. Yeah, and I mean you can do that with all the social media apps that have
Yep.
been now merged into a monster. But when Facebook started, it was like a way to, oh no, I think that's a terrible example because wasn't that to rate college girls or something? But then it merged
Yeah.
into something where people could stay in touch. So we both no longer live in the country that we were born in, so you
Yep.
probably still have people across the pond. Well, the small
Yep.
pond.
Several
Uh,
ponds.
but yeah, it's like, it was a way to stay in touch.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of created this monster that, not trying to digress, but I think social media stifles creativity. There you go.
I think spending too much time on uni channel is
Yeah.
bad because you are seriously compartmentalizing the dots you can collect, which you need for creativity.
Yeah.
So, Claudia, our time is up. What is the most important thing that you would want to share with anybody listening to this podcast, sort of in the theme of our conversation thus far?
Ooh, well, something that I always love to tell my clients, and I feel that always they need to hear it. So I'm hoping that someone who's listening to this will take it away as well. Is there's nothing wrong with you. You don't need fixing. You just need a strategy.
Ah,
So that's what I like to leave you with because a lot of people just think, oh, I don't have what it takes. And I guess that's the same for being creative.
yep,
Yes, you are. You are creative. You can do this. It's just
just need
about
to
making a
manage.
plan, make it happen.
All right, Claudia, thank you so much. It's been lovely speaking to you.
Thank you so much.
For all of you listening and watching, thank you so much for your attention. In the show notes, you can find all of Claudia's links, social media, website, and what have you. So if you want to dive in and find out more about exactly what she does, and of course, where to buy her book, you can do that from all of the links. Thanks so much for tuning in to Rebel, Reject, Create once again, and we'll see you with another bizarre and creative episode shortly. Until then, just be creative.